Michael to talk about his journey today. And also, kind of Michael is one of those paying it forward, like giving advice to who wants to make it rain. Let's do it on a big stage. And so I'm going to cheat. So I've got something I want to read, just his bio. So I'm going to put my nerd glasses on. How are we doing? We're good with that.
You make them look great.
I wear mine daily.
Do you like it? So Michael is a small town guy. He's from Cold Turkey Acres, Missouri. He was growing up in a Christian patriotic community. He was led by his love of God, guns, and country music. I'm going to say that. Just a little foreshadowing for what we're going to hear in a minute. But what's really cool about his story is he was actually a veteran of our armed forces. So Michael was a veteran of the Air Force during times of conflict. So he wasn't just a desk jockey. So he's got some stories there, I'm sure. He is a true American warrior. That is for sure. His path to public service brought Michael to the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department as a deputy sheriff. His passion for helping others is fueled by his belief that his nation is great only because of the selfless acts of the military veterans who have paved the way for our freedoms and way of life. How cool is that?
Amazing.
I love it. You know what I love about it? Because it's just the core of who he is. And when you see a really good person succeed the way Michael has succeeded, it's a big testament. But I can tell you, there's only one way to get a testament, and that's with a test. And Michael has done that. So we're going to share a little bit about his story. But he has shared the stage with some absolute, I love the word juggernauts, some haymakers in the music world. But he is absolutely humble by nature. He is personally, I have seen it. He is a crowd favorite. I have seen him open for some big names we'll talk about here in a little bit. But the crowd was lined up down the street because they weren't missing Michael. It was not one of those where people trickled in to see the headliner. It was they were there for Michael as well. He also was on the Emmy Award winning season of The Voice. He was on Team Adam for The Voice. He's performed all over the United States, overseas, all the country music festivals, you name it, he's done it. They always ask, when will Michael be back? He's the number one crowd favorite every time. He is absolutely a standout. You can tell when he's on stage, his love for his craft. That's what I love about it. He's upbeat. He's got great standards in the industry. He's very well thought of, but he's got a backbone. And a lot of times when we talk about business decisions, I've heard this, I'm sure you guys have too. What I really love about Michael's story, and we're going to hear some of it today, is he had some decisions to make in his career. And you're either going to choose to stand your ground or you're going to compromise your moral value. And the question is, and people say, well, this is not an ethical decision, it's a business decision. And Michael's a living, breathing example of someone being able to succeed by still allowing their moral compass to point north. So I'm excited for Michael to be here. His story is a huge testament. I'm so excited for the audience. My good friend, Michael Austin Martin.
Wow.
Man, I'm going to take you on the road with me.
Yeah, that was fantastic, Macy.
That was great.
Thank you for that.
Wow. I'm all like, got butterflies and chill bumps, the whole thing.
And we're all over here fangirling.
Oh, man. Man, oh, man.
So,
Michael, go ahead, Macy.
No, starting talking to us a little bit. I want to know from the beginning, obviously you didn't have the means in life where you grew up. So to walk us through a little bit before we get to your huge success, because we obviously want to talk about that. That's why you're here, because you're so successful at what you do. Yeah. And you're making some really big moves in the industry right now, which is just really cool to watch. But take us back. So take us back a little bit growing up, your hopes, your dreams, your goals, and then what led you to join the armed forces. San Bernardino, talk a little bit about that, because that's a big part of your testament.
So literally, I grew up with some of the hardest working parents I think ever in existence. I mean, my mom still works harder than most people I know, still to this day, and she's 74 years old, or going to be 74 years old. But being around that type of household, it you had to cut your own way, and I started, little businesses when I was just a kid, but the music bug hit me. We went to a local, I guess it was a local bar barbecue where just a bunch of the older vets and stuff would hang out close to the VFW. But it was a place called the Liberty Bar and Grill. And I walked out back, and there was this guy. He was a 19-year-old dude named Orrin Nichols. And I remember Orrin's name because it was such an impact on me back then. And the profound influence that he had on me from that point was just insane. But as he was strumming his guitar, I started singing along with him. And he said, "Hey," he said, "do you know the words to, any songs all the way through?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he says, "Well, what do you know?" And I said, "Well, I know Cowder the County by Kenny Rogers and Lord It's Hard to Be Humble by Mac Davis." And he says, "I can play both of those." He says, "Why don't we go inside? I'll have you up. And if they like you, I'll pay you." And I was like, "Pay me?" I think that just totally skipped my mind. But we went back inside, and Orrin played a couple of songs. And he says, "I'm going to have my new buddy, Michael, come up here and sing a couple of songs." And when I got up, the look of fear on my parents' face was priceless. They had no idea that this was about to happen. So I went up there and I did the two songs, and I think that was my first feeling of, I guess the neon was just coursing through my veins, even at 7 years old. And they liked me enough. He passed the hat and he handed me a $10 bill, which back in that day, we're talking about the 70s. So I just dated myself there. But so back in the 70s, $10 was big money. And my mom promptly introduced me to the music business, took that 10, made it two fives, and gave half to my brother who did nothing. So welcome to the music business.
Not that you're still bitter or anything.
No, 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 not that I'm still bitter at all. But that was like, that's the music business. I mean,
Yeah.
it foreshadowed just about everything that I was going to see and be a part of, even today. So, but after that, it hit me pretty hard. I sang every chance I got, set in with local bars and marinas. And, we lived on a little lake peninsula. So every weekend, there was something going on. And so I kind of, put myself in that position, and I used it as a networking tool because we were kind of living in a retirement community, a lot of retirees and a lot of what we called weekenders, because Kansas City was 2.5 hours away and they'd have summer homes down there. So I'd meet these people when I was singing, and I said, "Well, I also, mow yards, and I cut wood, and I rake leaves, and I do." So I had my own little business model just put in place. I had a perfect audience because everybody's there to have a good time, and they were like, "Oh, we'll help this kid out." So yeah, that's my thirst for trying to be a mogul, I guess, as a young man, kind of pushed forward. So I knew that networking was going to be a big part of my life, and it was. And being from there, we spent a lot of time going to the VFW. It was a great place to go. My parents would dance there, and we would learn to dance. And it was funny because the old guys would play cards in the back room, and the older ladies would dance with each other unless you were there, and then they'd snatch you up and they'd teach you how to dance. So learn how to dance pretty quick. But I love the stories. I could sit and listen to those older vets tell stories and how proud they were of being in this country and what they did. It was amazing to me that they still spoke of it with such reverence that even a little kid like me could feel that and could get that. It wasn't like watching a movie. These guys were telling stories they actually lived. And so I caught the patriotic bug early. One grandfather was Marine. He served at Guadalcanal. The other flew the B-23 Flying Fortress. So I had two ass-kicking granddads that were service members, and I had an uncle that was in the Army. And I said, it just felt right at the time. And it's funny because Russia was the biggest enemy we had when I joined the service. And it was the USSR, man. It was the Cold War. We were right in the middle of it. I joined in '87, and Thanksgiving of '87, I ended up at basic training on Thanksgiving Day, and then yeah, it kind of took off from there. So that's a kind of a brief history of how I got through 3 sections of that. Was that where you were aiming for, Mace?
Absolutely. I
That was
mean,
great.
how many professional recording artists serve time not in just one way in public service, but two? So you were in the Air Force
Yeah.
serving times during combat, but
Hmm.
then transport. And when you got back, I think you actually, when you got back from that, you dove back into music. Is that right?
Yeah, I dove back into music. I was getting ready to tread across to Nashville, and I made it as far as Texas and fell into the Texas music for a little while before I went back to California. And my father was a deputy sheriff. My grandfather was a deputy sheriff. My uncle was a deputy sheriff. And I was like, this is in my blood. I got to give this a shot. And I felt that it was another way to serve my community and actually do some good because you once you've seen kind of a not so good side of society, you pick it up, you see it a lot. And that's, I think, one thing that a lot of people don't understand these days is they go, oh, they just see what's on their TV, and they haven't lived the experience. And once you've seen that, even when I was overseas, I was like, this is I don't want my country turning into this. So there was, that was another way for me to get in the battle for doing the right thing.
And it reflects in your music. And that's why I think audiences love you so much, is because not only do you sing from the heart, but it's authentic. You've lived, you've walked it. So your music that you write is a reflection of your journey. And I think that's what makes you a standout. And so many people are just a recording artist, and somebody writes their songs, and they get up there and belt it out, whereas
Mhm.
lived it you lived it. It's just it's a different level at that point, and I think the audience can relate to that and can see that.
Yeah, I always hope that that's the case. Moving forward with anything. I see a lot of people singing about things that they've never experienced, and I feel that same way. It's just it's just a show. To me, I always think it's an experience. I want to be as accessible to the fans as I could possibly be because my heroes, in the industry were like that. And at a point in time, all of country music was accessible to the fans. It wasn't until, just a decade ago that people started wanting to be elite. And that's the road that they had to go, or that they were kind of coerced to go. And that's just sad. When you lose touch with the crowd and you lose touch with the people that put you in the place where you're at, I think you just lose it. You know, Anybody can be told what to listen to, and that goes a long way today. I mean, people on the daily basis are being told what to listen to. You have no idea you are, but you are, and it's very sad.
Yeah, and I have to ask you a question about that, Michael.
Mhm.
Just for instance, these AI generating music platforms.
Mhm.
And I've tried them out myself because I was trying to make one for our podcast, like an intro, because
Mhm.
you don't want to violate any, copyright, and you want to have a
Mm.
cool song. I'm not a songwriter. I might talk to you about that later. But I was thinking about, it's really cool how you can put in like what you want and all this stuff, and it spits something out,
Yeah.
but it still doesn't have the depth, does it, of a true songwriter. Tell me about that. Do you
It
use any of that stuff?
Yeah, so what you have now is you have a new generation of songwriters that you can tell that that's what they're using. They're using the AI generated stuff, and the thing that they don't realize, and I'll give you a prime example. So um, I heard that Randy Travis was going to have a new record, and I was like, wow, that's how are they going to get Randy in the studio to make this happen? And then I was told by a close friend um, that this was all prepared by AI. So what they did is they took a sample from almost everything he's ever done and then combined that to create his vocal for this new music.
Oh wow.
There's only one problem with that. When you have all those other samples, those are samples from other people's work, the people that wrote those songs, and the I guess the performance value that he had on those songs to create this new stuff. So Randy literally had to sue himself and I don't know exactly where that's at right now because it went hush hush. You wanted some juice, Mace? This is some juice.
Tell us I'm just
Give
leaned
it to
in.
us.
I just leaned in.
Yeah, but it comes, from a real crazy place right now where you have major labels controlling everything you listen to, and they use this algorithm. Everybody just talks about the algorithm of this, the algorithm of that. They started using the algorithm in country music about a decade or a decade and a half ago, and that's why you can go to YouTube and pull up a video that says the 14 country songs that are exactly the same, and they literally are. And you don't know you're listening to the same song when you listen to radio. You like the tune, and once that tracks well, they bombard you with that, and that's all you hear. You hear the same 14 to 16 artists on the radio every hour and a half, and there's a reason for that, because everybody's doing this great big money grab. These major labels have turned into these giant conglomerates, and Universal, Mercury, Geffen, Capitol, and they even got Toby Keith's record label Show Dog in there. On the other side, you have RCA, Sony, RCA, Interscope, and all that, and they've made themselves, as Macy would say, juggernauts in this industry, but not in a good way, I don't think. And I've had a long enough career and made enough money where I'm not really scared of the majors. So I'm going to kind of be who I am and tell it like it is. They are literally strafing these younger artists of everything that they are and everything that they have. And it's all about a money grab. They're trying to be substantial in a business where they're really not needed anymore. If people would just wake up and want to listen to the music they want to listen to.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
And and this is a question that I've been dying to ask you because I think that this is a problem for a lot of people, and it's stage fright. Okay.
Mhm.
And how do you combat that? I have this vision of you getting on. This is totally different from me. I'm jumping around here, but and this is for selfish reasons because I have tremendous stage fright and typically have to do some speaking engagements. So were you born with this ability to get on stage and not be afraid to sing in front of everyone, or was it something that you grew into? Tell me about how do you battle it? How do you
So
battle the fear?
there's some video, and I'll probably
You're muted, Michael.
go.
There we
That's
go. There we
weird.
go.
Okay. So my mom found some video of me when I was real little, and apparently I've been singing since I was 3, according to her. And then there's I was just a big ham. I just loved, as my dad would say, you're a big ham, you're bigger than an Easter ham. Um, and I just loved. I had 2 aunts that were on a dance team, and I would pretend to be Neil Diamond and Kenny Rogers and stuff, and they would dance behind me. It was hilarious, and I've got some pictures of that on my Instagram, I think. But so I get more stage fright in a room with 6 to 10 people than I do with a stadium of 70,000. The big shows like that, it's real simple. My band and I, we pray, and then we go hit it. And the last thing I'm thinking about is a prayer, and then I hear the music, and then I go into kind of a mode. And as long as I can connect with one person that I see in that crowd, I'm golden. It just it's not that I'm looking for acceptance, it's that I'm looking for companionship. When you're out there on that stage, you're not alone if you could find one person that's getting what you do.
I love that.
So that's a heck of a way to go after it, Wendy. That's for sure. Just
That's
one
great.
person. That's all you need.
It's interesting because Macy actually has that same she tells me the same thing. She gets nervous more in smaller crowds than in the larger crowds. So
Yeah.
I guess those performers, but so even at a young age you were wanting to be a performer. You were a performer. It's just in your
Oh yeah.
blood.
There were several times where my parents thought I was nuts. I remember being at a county picnic. I was 11 when this happened, and the band didn't show up, and a guy went up on the back of this giant 18-wheeler trailer and he had a microphone. He says, "Can anybody tell jokes or sing?" And I raised my hand. I go, "I could sing a little bit." And my dad was like, "Sit down." And I'm like, "Oh, I got this." And I went up and I sang, and I did the national anthem. Was the first song that I sang there, and yeah, I remember one of the few times I ever saw my dad cry was when I came off that stage, and he gave me a big old hug, and he said he was proud of me, and I was like, man, that in itself was worth everything right there. That moment was just magical for me.
That's really touching.
I love it.
So, okay, so we've got your background,
Yeah.
country all the way through and through. You went into the armed services and you did your time there.
Mm-hmm.
You came out and you did 22 years as a
22
deputy
years.
sheriff. Is that right?
San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. Started in January 7th of 1995 and retired January 7th, 2017.
Wow. And so your passion comes from, I know you and I have talked offline about a lot of your stories and what you had to go through and what you saw. And, you know, as even as unpleasant as the body count, right? And so
Mhm.
you really have that layer to you that breeds authenticity. And I really feel like too, or do you feel like that is what gave you the backbone to stand up to some of the big label bullying that you felt like? And I want to start talking about your career now.
Mhm.
And Wendy, unless you've got anything else that you want to
No,
add.
go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
so then you retire from the sheriff's department and
Mhm.
you then make the journey to Nashville.
Yeah.
So walk us through how that was, because that is one of the number one goals in music is to make it big in Nashville. It's also one of the toughest cities to ever make it in. I mean, it's
Mhm.
basically tougher than LA and New York.
So much
Um,
talent. Yeah.
yeah, there's so much
And
talent,
competition.
it's in competition, but you were successful. So walk us through how you got to I'm small town country boy coming in as a public servant, right?
Mhm.
To where you are now. Give us a little bit of a background about how you managed that.
Well, I had pissed off plenty of guys in Nashville just running my music in California. I got all the openings for the major acts on the West Coast. I pretty much controlled Las Vegas during Nashville National Finals Rodeo at a point in time where they were trying to get new artists into these stages, and I was booked continuously through. And it, it was, I mean, the labels at the time were like, "Oh, hey, we want to try this developmental deal," and I'd had a developmental deal before, and I got shelved, which means they started my project and then decided that somebody else, like another label, was trying to trade for a girl that they wanted to put out, so they would shelf me. They would get their girl out, and the guy artists on the other label would get to go out instead of me because we sounded alike. So I was like, I'm not going to play this games. And I made myself a promise that I wouldn't leave the sheriff's department or I wouldn't decide to do another deal unless it was a deal that I wanted. And I stuck with it. I mean, I was talked to several times. "Oh, you should come back and we'll talk about this." And I'm like, "No, this is what it is." And they go, "Well, nobody really talks to us like that." Well, nobody makes 100 and something thousand dollars a year being a cop either, do they? And it was kind of that table turning event that I looked at them as if they were bullies. And I was like, enough is enough. You're too big, your hair's too short, nobody likes cops, you're this, you're that. And every chance they got, they'd say something derogatory. Even when I did the voice with, I mean, we'll probably talk more about that, but it was a battle with that too. Oh, everybody was hating cops at that point in time, and it wasn't real likely that I was going to go very far on the show. And then some medical stuff happened, and it was weird how it worked out. But I was carrying a chip on my shoulder with Nashville, which I had to let go because I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to sit and be angry all the time. I just wanted to find a better way to do it, and to get through it, and to help other people understand that Nashville in itself wasn't the be all end all to make music.
Well, talk to us about the voice. I mean, you brought that up. So where was that in your journey and all this?
Man,
You landed.
so I was coming back from Las Vegas. My guitarist had bummed a ride with me. We were driving back, and he said, "Hey," he said, he says, "What are you doing on Sunday?" And I said, "Well, I'm going on a 3-day tuna fishing trip. And he says, well, he goes, you need to be in LA. And I go, why? And he said, I signed you up for the audition on The Voice. And I said, you did what? And he said, yeah. He says, I signed you up. And he says, I'll tell you what, if you don't make it on the show, he says, I'll pay for the fishing trip. And I was like, man. So I went down there on a Sunday. When I got down, there was 19,000 people at the LA Forum. And I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. So I hung out all day and made a couple of friends in line like everybody does. You talk to enough people. And I went in and you get assigned after waiting for, I think it was like 7.5 hours. It was crazy. And I get in and they pull 10 people in at a time. And you're in this little half circle. And do you guys remember a movie called Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield by chance?
Yeah,
I
Rodney,
would could
Okay.
never. I wouldn't be that old.
Oh, yeah.
remember.
We saw
remember
the
for sure.
reruns.
Yeah. So there was the lady that played the English professor that he fell in love with, that Rodney fell in love with. I looked to my left and it was her. She was sitting there. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I was a huge fan of the movie and I'd actually seen some of her other stuff. And she was sweet as all get out. And she was wearing these cute little slippers and everything. But so she gets up and sings and she does her thing. And I get up and I sing. And it was the first time that I saw the guy look up. And I didn't know if he didn't like me. I didn't know if he wanted to see if it was the same guy. But so I did it. And at the end, he said, I want Michael and there was another gal there to stay. And she asked me if she could stay and experience it with me. And I was like, and I was very taken by that. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I go, if it was cool with him. And so she stayed with me and he said, you guys have made it on to the next round and we're going to do this. So eventually I auditioned 7 times. And I guess I say audition. It was 7 different meetings that I had with them before they actually invited me to the show. And I was down in San Diego golfing in a charity golf thing, and I think I was on the 14th tee, and I got the call, and it says, "Hey, we need you in Burbank tomorrow." And I was like, "Oh!" So it happened that quick, and then I found out what it was all about. You immediately get sequestered into a hotel with about 300 and something people, and that day they're cutting people. Like they have to get it down to, I think it was 100 people, and they were going to do 4 days of 25 people a day until the teams were filled. And literally, you'd be sitting having lunch with somebody, and they come tap them on the shoulder, and they had to go, and then you never saw them again.
Brutal.
So
How were you feeling at that point? Like when you first got there, did you think you'd make it through?
I didn't even really look at it like that. I was there just to kind of ham it up. I figured I'd made it that far and I was just going to have a good time. And I remember I made really good friends with the Swan brothers, who actually have had a great career here in Nashville as well. And a guy named Josiah Hawley and who was else? I think Jeff Anderson. And we sat down and I said, I'm going to make a bold prediction that one of us at this table is going to make it into the finals. And the Swan brothers made it into the finals. So I thought that was always cool. Zach tells that story quite a bit. But it was it's TV, and a lot of stuff goes on that a lot of people don't see. And it's nerve-wracking. It's wake up at 3:30, hair and makeup and all that good stuff. Is like wearing makeup was a real change for me. And yeah, and that whole thing. Yeah, exactly. And it was cool, but it was TV. And everybody's like, well, how much time did you spend with so and so? And like I didn't spend a whole lot of time with Adam. Very just, it was brief. It was like everything was scripted from start to finish. So but it was fun. And I went into the battles, and that's when I was diagnosed. They found a tumor in my sinus cavity, and I had to have surgery, and a lot of stuff stopped right there. So
that happened during the auditions, during that time period?
it happened. So we were the first season that was going to take a break between the live, the chair turning thing and what they call the battle rounds. And during that break is when they scheduled me. They found a tumor on a Wednesday. I was in surgery Friday morning.
Wow. Typically, and just with I have a little bit of a healthcare background, I know that when you have surgeries of that nature, a lot of times it can affect the voice.
We can't hear you, Daphne. Somebody muted everyone. I'm not sorry.
Oh,
sorry.
I don't. Did you hear me? Were you able
There
to
we
hear
go.
me?
Yeah.
Try-
So
I don't know who keeps doing that.
We keep getting, it says unmute all. Is that? There we go.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
okay. So everybody keeps doing it. Hold on. Daphne, you're muted again. That's so weird. So I was afraid that it would. And but the thing was, is the doctor told me, hey, you can't sing for a while. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. And but I went and I did it. And I did sound very nasally going back. And that scared the crap out of me. I was like, I hope I don't sound like this. But by the time I went back to film, I think I had the surgery in October, and then January I went back, and I was able to get through the battle pretty quick. But after I did that, I found that I tore a bunch of stitches and stuff, so I had to go back in, and I wasn't able to sing for almost a year. So I had to take a year off from doing something that I think defined me and who I was. So that was a real bad time for me. But
Wow, that's a real testimony, though, truly, to having faith, to pushing through, and
Mhm.
and to just knowing that you're on the right path and aligned.
Yeah. And it was crazy. I hadn't thought about singing in a long time. I'd gone through a bunch of weird stuff with that, and it became evident that it's something I wanted to do. I ended up at a karaoke bar one night and just let it rip, just to see where I was at, and it was there. And it actually added a little bit to my range. I had a little bit more space to push the notes up higher. So then I started like doing it more, and I had a DJ say, "Hey, there's a band that's looking for a front guy. Why don't you come and check it out?" So I went and I said, "I heard you guys are looking for a front guy." And the guy that was the front guy that they just hired goes, "Nope, we're not looking for a front guy. We've got a front guy. That front guy's me." But the other guy was who's my drummer and my music director now, Brad. And he says, "Well, let him sing a couple," So that was to his detriment. They let me sing a couple, and I ended up taking the band. But yeah, it was kind of crazy.
So where did the Sony record deal come in? You went from The Voice, and then you got sick, and then you started with this band again, and then somewhere along the way you got a Sony record deal.
Yeah, so I was being shopped by a bunch of different boutique labels, and this one boutique label had their in with Sony, and they came to me and said, "This is the deal that you've been looking for. We're able to do this for you. Let's go ahead and do this." And I looked it over and I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I jumped in, and I shouldn't have jumped in. I think I was just a little bit too hungry at the time, and I really wanted to make something happen. I had a lot to say with what my music and what I wanted to do, and I overlooked some things, and it ended up not being a great fit. And it just kind of went south really quick. They weren't pushing the music like they should. They hadn't put a single out, and this is where we started running into trouble about who I was as an artist and my patriotism and what I did for a career. And they started to panic, and my publicist started to panic. My publicist was not doing her job by putting me out genuinely who I was, and they were all afraid of it. So in the end, I ended up buying my record deal out, and just went independent.
I want to delve into that.
Okay.
This is
I
really
knew
cool
you
stuff,
would.
you guys.
Yeah.
Because so many people toe the line because they think that's the way to get ahead, right? They live in
100%.
and the fear, but you created a success by being true to yourself, and you went against the grain, and you fought the giant, and you won.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Give us a context of timeline. What years were we talking about when all this was taking place?
So this was in 2019, is when it was everything was kind of hitting the fan. I had said on several occasions, because I had just written God, Guns, and Country Music, and I wrote it with two very liberal writers here in Nashville. And it's when the one liberal writer who has 20 number one hits came to me and said that his publishing house said this is a smash, and he was like, I have to admit it, it's a smash. And I was like, cool, this is great. So I went to the label and I said, we got to push this song. This is what we need to do. And they were like, nope, that ain't gonna happen, and blah 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 blah. So I was kind of sneaky about it and sent some stuff out just to get it tested. And it landed on a desk. This lady Joanne, who just happened to have a hand in with the Ted Nugent crew, and she was playing that. Ted heard the song, and I think it was 5:30 in the morning, on a Monday. I was in California. I was going to be out there for the week performing, and I got a call and says, "Yeah, I'm looking for Michael Austin." I go, "That's me." And he says, "This is Ted Nugent." And I was like, "Yeah, good try, Billy." I go, "Don't mess with me." And I hung up. And then I looked and I saw that I said, "Ted's from Michigan and this is a Texas number." And I'm like, "Okay." So called me right back and said, "Don't you effing hang up on me." And I was like, "Oh God, it's really Ted Nugent."
It's a
And
real
you
deal.
hung up on him.
I had hung up
I
on
love
Ted.
it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it says, "Hey, why don't you fly to Texas? I want to talk to you about this song. I really like this song." And he told me then, and a bunch of other times, he goes, "You didn't write a country record. You wrote a rock and roll record with country overtones." And I was just laughing about that. And so I was like, "Well, when am I coming to Texas?" He goes, "Well, why don't you fly there the end of the week?" And they literally booked my flight for Tuesday, which was the next day. I was like, he said the end of the week. But I got in early and we went out to his place. We took a videographer with us, and because I thought that there was some meat on this bone. The label still not liking this at all. They knew Ted was very outspoken, very patriotic, very controversial, and I just thought it was a great fit. And I'd gone out there, and when I went to walk over to meet him, he met me halfway, and with the most intimidating look, he sticks his hand out and he grabs my hand and he pulls me close and he says, "You and me, we just became spirit brothers. You get me?" I said, "I get you." And then he got more intense. He goes, "Do you get me?" And I said, "I get you." And he said it so with this command presence. I thought for sure he was going to like pull out a knife and go cut his hand and go, "We're going to be blood brothers." And I'm like, ah. But it was a moment. He says, "All right, so let's go have some ginger ale and blow shit up." And I was like, "What? Who says that? Who says that?"
That's amazing.
Because Ted's been sober his
Oh my
entire
gosh,
life,
that's
you know.
awesome.
Yeah, let's get some ginger ale and go blow some shit up. And I was like, this is great. So it
Love
was
it.
priceless, and it was we had a really we had a moment. I had a moment with Ted Nugent. We were sitting next to each other in a side by side, and we're looking at this part of his property that looks like the Serengeti. It's overgrown mesquite, and he has these kudu and these gemsbok and these exotic animals out there that he has out there. And he says, "I really want to thank you for trusting me with this part of your career." He says, "Not a lot of people would be excited to go out on tour with me," and I had no idea I was going to go out on tour with him. That wasn't even a part of the conversation. And I was like, "Okay, well, you obviously know something that I don't, because I just came here for a meeting. I didn't come here to talk tour." But and I said thanks, and he got kind of, Ted's a scary dude, but he has his sensitive moments, man. And I saw the underbelly of really who he is, and that caring aspect of who he is and what he's talking about. And the next thing I knew, I was getting ready to go out on tour with Ted Nugent. It was insane.
Wow.
That's so freaking cool.
And how long did you tour with him?
I toured with Ted from 2019. I did my last show with him in 2023 when he retired from touring.
Oh, I bet that was some fun times, huh, with Ted Nugent.
It was, I was like watching your hero every day. I would literally, when I got done with my meet and greet, would go out to the sound booth and watch the show. And I was a big fan of a bunch of his songs. And that was the best part. We were sitting on his porch. God, there's so many stories in this story. But
We
so
want them
before we
all.
went on
We
the
really
porch,
do.
yeah, so we're standing there drinking this Verner's ginger ale, which is a Michigan-based company, by the way. And he's Ted's total Michigan guy. Total, he's a Michigander, as he calls himself. But he played the national anthem for me in his living room.
Oh, that's
Oh
incredible.
my
And
gosh.
I was like, this is like, come on, man, this isn't real.
This isn't real life, right?
And he fired up his amps, and his wife Shemaine, who is an amazing lady. I mean, if you guys get a chance to get her on this podcast, I'd highly
We
recommend
would love to,
both of
for the
them.
record.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
would
So
love to.
Shemaine is absolutely amazing, and she comes to the top of this. They had like this little halfway up the stairs, like this little area, and she comes over. She heard him fire up the amp. She goes, "Ted," she goes, I'm going to be doing a like a show or something." And he goes, "Oh, it won't be loud." And she goes, "Baby, it's always loud." And I was like, this is great. And he says, so he played the
You're
national
Ted
anthem.
Nugent. You're going to be loud.
Yeah, she goes, "Baby, it's always loud." And I was just dying. So we went out and sat on the porch, and he says, "So what do you think about this tour? What do you think?" And I said, "Well, I'd be honored, big time." I said, "I've been a fan." He goes, "Oh, you're a fan?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "What's your favorite song?" And I said, "Well, Stranglehold, man." And he goes, "Oh, that's easy. Everybody knows Stranglehold." And I said, but Good Friends and a Bottle of Wine. I like that song too." And he goes, Good Friends, a Bottle of Wine?" I go, "You play it, I'll sing it right now, man."
Oh,
And he was kind of taken aback by that aspect of it. But we sat there on the front porch and did his set list for the tour. And I thought for sure when I met up with him in Oklahoma when we started the tour that it was going to be different, and it wasn't. He did exactly what we talked about on the front porch. So he let me be a part of that, which I am forever grateful for that. That's a memory that I'll have for the rest of my life. But yeah. So yeah.
well, obviously you had some talent, and he respected your opinion. So, but how about that for validation from your point that Ted Nugent is listening to your opinion on his set list?
I was blown away, absolutely blown away. And Ted's a giver. I mean, he everything that he could possibly do for you, he's going to do. We've got some stuff coming up that a lot of people are going to be shocked about, so that's going to be kind of fun.
Oh,
Do
Do
tell.
tell.
So,
Any little hints of what we're
I'll
going to be
make
doing?
I'll make this announcement right now. Since
Okay.
since
wait a
God
minute.
Guns
We
and
got an
God Guns
announcement
and Country
for the
Music,
world. You heard it here
yeah,
first. Okay.
exactly. So God Guns and Country Music didn't get its original fair shake. The label never released it to its full potential. We did a soft release on Spotify, and it's always bugged Ted that happened. So Ted has agreed to play lead guitar and go back in and re-record God Guns and Country Music,
Oh
and
my gosh.
we will definitely tell you there's going to be another feature artist, and I can't tell you who it is right now because the contract negotiation is going.
We
But
won't
it's
tell
going to,
anyone.
yeah, I know. Yeah, we won't tell anybody. But there's going to be another artist that's going to on that with me, and it's going to be huge. Let's
I
just
think
say
I
it's
know who it is, but I'm
well,
not going to say a word.
okay, perfect. But it's time to make waves. It's time to be the artist. I relied on Ted, and I fell on Ted. I've been his ear plenty. We were talking at least once a week, and I said, I really everybody's after me to cut down on my political views, my patriotism, my thoughts, and the things that have happened. I know a big time was through the George Floyd trials and all that, and I was an expert in what was going on with that, and I would try to talk about it, and the label would just freak out. They actually they took my socials away from me, which I didn't know was possible for a little while. I think we had a conversation about that too, Mace, was when they did that, when they pulled my socials down. Yeah. And they wouldn't let me post. They locked me out of everything. And I was like, oh, okay. I see how that is.
But what I love about it was during that time and the reason you gained, Ted's respect is
Mhm.
obviously very talented, but there's a lot of very talented people. But there's a handful of you that are going to do it your way because you know the truth. You're going to stick with the truth. You're going to stick with who you are, and you're not going to put on a mask to please the record labels. And you know,
Yeah.
so that's Ted Nugent, that's Michael Austin, that's Kid Rock. You know, there's a handful of you guys that are going to do it your way. And what I
Yeah.
love about your story is you did it despite. I mean, you had the opportunity to really line your pockets and you chose to stay true to who you are. And I really know that's going to pay off. And so
Yeah.
the audience has no idea how big this is going to be right now. I know, you know, but this is going to be huge. It's your time. And it's
Yeah.
because you just didn't back down. And it's so sad when you have record labels like what you experienced being a bully because you love God and you love our country.
Oh yeah.
And I know that the tide has turned with all of that now. And I think the platform is set for you to really launch. But what I want to talk about before we run out of time, Wendy, if it's okay, I
Mhm.
want to talk about, so obviously you are a singer and you're a songwriter, but I have one more question before I say that.
Okay.
Who's your favorite artist you've ever collaborated with outside of Ted? So we know Ted is your all-time favorite, but I know you've been collaborating with several throughout your lifetime. Who's been your favorite to work with?
So hands down, and this one really hurts. Hands down, my favorite sharing the stage and having fun with, partying with, and being a part of their life was Toby Keith. Hands down. I have so many stories with Toby, from almost blowing up the world famous Gillies to
Yes.
waking up on a fishing boat in Mexico
That's
to
okay. We're gonna have Toby on. We're gonna have Toby on. So we're gonna compare y'all
Oh
stories.
my God. Michael and
We-
Toby, I can't stand it.
we're gonna have a good time with those stories for sure.
We
But-
need to bring you back when Toby comes on.
That would be so
Well,
cool.
Toby passed away.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that's
Yep.
right.
I didn't know that, and I am so
Yeah.
No,
embarrassed.
I did know
did.
No,
that.
I did not know that.
I have
Oh
always
my
been a
goodness.
huge fan of his. So with that slip, I'll just say, listen, if you haven't had an opportunity, you guys got to check out some Toby Keith because
Yes.
man, oh man,
100%.
he was a legend in his time.
I just
Oh, yeah.
I was so excited when you said Toby Keith, and I was like, we've got to have him on.
Yeah.
No, I mean he's no longer with us.
It's
We'll
it's
have
still
him next
hard.
year.
It's still hard to think that he's not. You know,
He's
he was
different.
also, he was a pillar for me too, because Toby never
Mhm.
played by the Nashville rules. Toby never moved to Nashville. He was an Oklahoma guy.
Really?
He
I
flew
didn't
here
know
to he flew here to work. Yeah. He never lived in Nashville. And he did it his way. I mean, there were plenty of times where his advice was, you know, you got to be yourself. You got to stand up for who you are. And Toby was the pariah back in the day when he was doing all the patriotic stuff. I mean, the big clash with him and the Dixie Dinglings.
The Dixie Chicks.
Yeah.
Yes, that was
Yeah.
when I was in my country. You're hard.
Yeah. So, you know, back when that was happening, and everybody was, you know, either be patriot. And then when 9/11 happened, and American Soldier and the Angry American came out, everybody was all, you know, flag waving, pro America. And then funny how that, you know, just goes away when you rather talk about, you know, all the other stupid crap that people want to talk about today, instead of making this nation the best nation it could possibly be by, you know, supporting it and the men and women in uniform constantly. And it became this big thing where everybody wanted to be an adolescent child thinking idiot that wanted to buck the system that was doing nothing but helping them anyway. So I'll never understand that aspect of how we went down that route. I mean, we've got two full generations that every kid gets a trophy, and you're seeing the results of that. Everybody wants to know why helicopters are falling out of the sky. Everybody wants to know why there's so many maintenance issues with planes. It's because we went from being a meritocracy to a DEI hire group, and it's just, you know, proof positive that it didn't work, and it needs to be rectified sooner than later, because, you know, we need to be strong and powerful again, and the only way you do that is the best need to be in the best positions. You know,
Wow, that's so
cream needs to
true.
rise to the top and get it done. So.
So
And
let's
Macy, I do want to talk about the artist that he is now producing before we have to start. And I also want to have the opportunity for the audience to ask some questions. So,
Yeah.
but go ahead with your question there, Macy.
No, that's it. I want to transition from where you were kind of yielding to music producers to now you have become a music producer. Because that's a big jump. So talk to us about your production that you've got going, who you're producing, what's coming out, what do we need to be looking for, where do we find information?
Yeah.
Yeah, give us some foreshadowing of what's coming with
So
music production.
yeah, so it was a few years ago. This little 16-year-old gal comes up to me at a show I was doing at the House of Blues in Anaheim, and super sweet. And I'd heard about her, but hadn't met her yet. So I met her there, and we had talked about working together then. I said, listen, I'd really like to work with you when you're 18. You can do, make your own decisions, and because there's some things, some hard knocks things you need to learn, that kind of stuff. And her name was Peyton Howie. And Peyton's got a great support group. Her dad Jeff and her mom, they're amazing people. And they had come to Nashville, and they were talking to a bunch of producers. And me and my partner Eric, who I owned a production company with, sat down, and they said, we want to do 10 songs, and we want to do this. And I said, listen, let's do 5 songs. If you like the way we do 5 songs, and you listen to some of our advice, and you like that, and things start happening, then we'll come back and we'll revisit. I said, because the one thing I don't want to do is overpromise and underdeliver. And this town is full of that. Everybody's going to promise you the world, and they're not going to do anything. They're just going to take your money, and they're going to go, oh, well, it happens. It's a music business. I don't want to be that guy. The people that I work with, I won't work with those people, because it's dishonest, and it's killing kids here in Nashville. And I say kids, you got 37-year-old people trying to break this business still.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat down with Peyton, and we wrote her entire EP, and we're at over 14 million streams now. We wrote some real patriotic stuff. She has a song called Keep Her Breathing, I think is probably one of my favorites. We have a song called Jail and Jesus that I like so much that I'm thinking about recording that myself. It's just, and maybe do a duet with her on that, because it's such a powerful piece. So yeah, she's tearing it up. She's in talks with major labels right now, and we've talked about the do's and don'ts and what she needs to be careful about. And she's getting ready to go out on tour with Willie Nelson's son, Lucas. So they're going to be on tour this summer, and she's got a lot of stuff going for her. She's getting ready to go over to England. She's going to play England, Ireland, and Scotland. She's tearing it up. She's got a really good head on her shoulders, and she's probably one of the hardest working gals in the business right now. And I'm just super proud to have been her producer, and got to work with her.
We can hear it in your voice. And listen, I don't know about you guys, but I think Jail and Jesus is just the coolest name ever for an epic country song. Right? Jail and Jesus.
Probably found Jesus in jail. I'm sure a lot of people did.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. I love that you're finding talent and helping these guys out. And so many people are probably trying to get to you. And I don't know how you decide. I imagine your inbox is full. And how do you determine who you're going to take on?
So I'm that crazy guy where if I have spare time, I do something else. So I don't know. I am one of the managers at a local gun shop, and the guys that I work with are all vets and love music, and I will play stuff for them at the shop and see what they think. And we constantly listen to that kind of stuff, and it's just one of those things where I incorporate every piece of my life, because I'm 100% sure that networking is the gateway to success. Success begets success. You surround yourself with successful people, you will be successful, as long as you bring something to the table. So being there at the shop, which is called High Caliber, by the way, you guys need to come see me. I would love to build High Caliber in Nashville. You guys need to come and see me so I can build you a custom gun. We got a bunch of stuff that we do.
Promise you will.
Oh, and I know Macy still, she was on a gun kick so much. I can't remember. She bought like 6 guns in a couple of weeks. And she kept calling me. She goes, "You got to stop me." And I go, "I ain't stopping you." You know, when somebody says that they know how many guns they have, they don't have enough. That's my opinion. But yeah, so it's just a great space to bounce stuff off of, you know, and being able to get other people's opinions, because I don't like to make that decision myself, because sometimes I'll be biased, and it's just an honesty thing with me where you know, if you hear something I want to know what it is. So that's kind of how I do it. I'll let friends of mine listen to artists that have come to me and said, "Hey, you know, I'm thinking about doing this," and you know, I've actually got ready to work with artists and decided not to, just because they weren't the same person that I met in the initial interview. So that's also important, is I do my due diligence, I do my homework. And if you're not a good person and you're just pretending to be that, I'm gonna find that out. So I just
It
want to
comes out
work
in the
with,
end, doesn't it? It always does.
yeah.
And you're also linked to Lainey Wilson, is that right?
So yeah, what I've got going on now, this is exciting. So there was a production company, and I was just in the right place at the right time to become part of this production company, called Ember. And at one point in time, when they were the other company, they were handling a lot of major artists. So since I've joined the company, we work with Lainey Wilson, we work with Hardy, we were with Morgan Wallen. He's doing all kinds of stuff. Morgan's kind of all over the place. Working with Three Doors Down on a new tour that they got going out. So being a part of that and the creative process of the content capture for all of them and their touring, and the music videos that we got coming up, we're going to be working with Megan Maroney and you know, a bunch of other artists. So it's super exciting to be on that creative side of it. Um, and I just can't even imagine. We've got a bunch of stuff that we can't talk about because it's proprietary. But I'll tell you what, you guys will be the first to know. I promise that once it gets close to being public, I'll announce it with you first. How about that?
Yeah,
take
I
it.
would
Thank
love
you.
that.
That is my promise to you. But we've got a lot of stuff from other businesses that I own, that just kind of pulling it all together and creating a better fan experience all the way around. Because music is such an audio and visual part of people's lives that we want the access to be there, you know, as much as possible.
And really, Michael, if I may, I think that's something that sets you apart as a person, as a human, as an artist and a businessman. Like just even the conversations that we've had yesterday and today and getting to know you, you are so approachable and so down to earth, if you will. Do you see that that makes a difference in your career?
You know, it's funny that you say that, and then we could talk like this, because a lot of people in person they look at me like I'm a parolee or something, you know. But no,
Never
I
judge a
think,
book by its cover.
yeah, I think that it is undoubtedly, if people aren't approachable, and if people want to play this secret squirrel game, you're going to continue to get the exact same thing that we've been getting for the past decade and a half in this business. And you know, it's a travesty when you think about it, that people can't create outside of this so-called algorithm or this spectrum that they want to put everybody in. And I mean, when you've got labels that are going to TikTok, listening to somebody for 15 seconds ago, sign that guy, and they're just after the TikTok money, and they sign them and then they burn them, and it's just sad. But you want that creative juice to flow. So I think that getting out and meeting people, being approachable, and you know, not being afraid to put it out there, it's imperative that people start doing that. And Nashville's always been a networking city. It just kind of forgot about it for a while.
I love that. You're really making an impact. You know, it's not that's what it feels like to me. It's not just about making the money, not just even about making the music, but you're truly making an impact.
He's making big moves and
Yeah.
doing it the right way.
Exciting stuff, Michael. And I want to hear more about Ember. You were talking about this 60,000 square feet, a recording studio with
60,000 square.
podcast
Yeah,
studio as well.
yeah.
In Nashville.
So we're creating a live capture staging system, where we'll be able to capture a whole concert. We'll have 4 podcast studios built into the inside of the building, and just kind of run it that way. So I think that nowadays more content capture. Everybody worries about that. They're like, oh my God, I don't have enough stuff to put on socials, and I've got to do this, I've got to do that. We can capture an entire 90-minute set and give you half-minute segments that will get you through the dark time when music kind of shuts down through November through February. And we give fans an opportunity to become super fans. We're going to kind of work on, you guys remember the old fan clubs where you send in $10, you got a signed David Cassidy poster or whatever it was back in the day, that your parents got, right?
Yes.
Or your parents.
No,
No,
they
they
were
were
really
cool,
cool,
guys.
I was in
Yeah.
a Sean Cassidy fan
Yeah.
club, but yeah, I
Yeah.
do remember.
So, we're gonna bring that back in a way where it makes artists accessible again. Everybody, it's still gonna be safe, but accessible. That's I think being in touch with your fans. I remember talking to Willie Nelson years ago, and I was enamored with the fact that he waited for everybody to take a picture and to sign an autograph. And it was crazy to me that he looked at me and said, "Son," he said, "if people are waiting in line for you to scratch on a napkin," he goes, "you need to stay." And I was like, wow. So I'm that guy. I'll stay till the last autograph needs to be signed, last picture needs to be taken. I'm not going to leave anybody hanging. It's just, yeah.
We
I
do
love
have
that.
one.
That's what it's all about, right? I'm so sorry, Wendy. But I think about back to like my first concert, and that's the fun of it, right? Or taking your child to their first concert or your friends. Like music brings people together, and it's true. Like we used to be able to like wait for them after the concert and all these things. And with I don't know, the way of times has just changed so much.
Yeah.
So this is neat stuff. I'm sorry, Wendy. Back over to you, my love.
Oh no, 100%. No, I love it. I just noticed in the chat that there was a question, and this is a little off topic for what we're talking here, but I want to make sure that our audience gets some of their questions answered. And so they want to know, how does Michael feel about Beyonce winning the Country Album of the Year at the Grammys? So I don't know, is that
Fun
even
question.
what do you
The
think about things like that, where people are crossing over from other genres, obviously?
So the way Beyonce did it is, and gosh, man, I'm going to be really rough on this, is disgusting. Jay-Z spent approximately $70 million to make that happen. Tried to buy their way onto the Grand Ole Opry stage, which is a big no-no in Nashville, and kind of made a mockery of country music. Didn't come in to do a country album, came in and just blasted it, made everybody listen to it, made everybody, you can't tell me that Paola isn't alive and well when the radio stations were playing Beyonce. It made me sick because what it did is it took away a spot that that's been dedicated to country music their entire existence lost. You know,
Right.
and on the other hand, you've got a guy like Post Malone who did it right. He has a love for country music. He did cover songs with a few people, and then he started collaborating with other people. Post didn't come out immediately and go, "I've got a country record. Y'all are going to listen to it." She did. She came out and said, "You'll listen to this." And then immediately it was the race card. Immediately it was this, and immediately it was that. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Either come with the music and let it stand on its own, or don't come into this thing at all. It was sad, to tell you the truth. I felt bad for her that she felt she had to do that. But the Grammys has lost a lot of face with the Grammy win. When you've got somebody like Chris Stapleton and you snub him to placate somebody like that because they spent that much money, and country doesn't have a big representation in the Grammys anyway. So, it's just because they're afraid, I guess. I don't know.
That is really
Right.
surprising. What an interesting answer. Thank you for being so transparent
Yeah.
and candid.
Very much so. So I do want to give the audience, does anyone have any questions for Michael? I know we are running over today. We had a little technical difficulty. Oh, Credit has a question. Credit, go ahead.
Hey, Michael. I'm from
Hey.
Vegas. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, I'm just what other business? I mean, you talk about the words that I really like is access. Access is so important to not only people but knowledge and opportunities. And mentioning the fact about network and putting yourself out there and being in the right place at the right time. I mean, I met Macy in real life several times, a lot of interaction. Daphne at the same time, and Wendy spent some quality time. And I think at the end of the day, who you choose to do business with, you kind of have a level of trust and comfort because you got to be really careful. And when you align yourself with the wrong people, that goes your reputation. You know, it takes 20 years to build reputation. It takes 20 seconds to burn it to the ground.
Oh yeah.
What other businesses do you have that we could support? And secondly, when we are launching our chatter in person parties, we would like to have you a part of it somehow or another. I feel a sense that we only take care of the people that we connect with. And thank you, Macy, for bringing him on. And I just been slammed with some major projects. I know I told Wendy a little bit about it, and so I
Yes.
can't really release it, but please answer those questions. I'm done.
Yeah, so I own a clothing company, a DTG farm on the West Coast, where we create clothing for smaller bands that.
Can you explain what DTG is? A lot of people don't
So
because
yeah,
I have a swag company, but a lot of people
yeah,
don't.
so it's a direct to garment printing. So we can take and build you a website. And but back in the day, you'd have to buy 2 cases of T-shirts to get them at a respectable price to take to your shows. With that being said, all in today's digital age, all you have to do is drive people to your website, and we pull, print, and ship the shirt in the same day. And that in itself is, you're not out buying 2 cases of T-shirts. You're not buying uh, 144 pieces. You're literally just paying for the website and then driving traffic to that, and we send you a check every 2 weeks. So that's one of my primary businesses, I think, where we're helping younger artists and kind of going from there. So, and then it's the consulting business that I do here in Nashville. I'm not that guy that's asking $10,000 an hour like these wackos. You're definitely getting your money with me when it comes to my knowledge. If you don't pay me, and that's just how it is.
Wow. Thank you,
Well,
Credit, for your
well, good.
question. And
Yeah.
thank you, Michael. Does anyone else have any questions before we have to start shutting us down here? I don't see any hands right now. I
have
think
one.
actually.
I have one.
Go ahead. Yes, Macy.
Yeah. So, Michael, I love this question. I try to ask everyone. Obviously, you have done huge things in the industry. It sounds like what's coming is going to be even bigger than what you've done. But I mean, we've sat here and talked to you about Ted Nugent, Lainey Wilson, Willie Nelson, Three Doors Down, Toby Keith. I mean, you're definitely in the mix. So, building your empire to where it is now, if you had to build it all over again, knowing what you know now, what would you do the same and what would you do differently?
I would definitely, the same thing I would do is just continue to be true to myself and not being afraid of who I was, and who I am, who my family brought me up to be. That goes without question. As far as things that I would change, I think that I would align myself even harder with those that were the same. I think that I felt kind of that I was kind of in it by myself until I did talk with Ted, or until I did spend quality time with Tobe and that type of thing. I think that I would have trusted myself a little bit more and started businesses a little bit earlier. A wise man once told me that it's only a bad idea when 3 friends tell you at 3 different times that it's a bad idea. Because everybody has an opinion. But if you have 10 people and 3 of them tell you that it's a bad idea, you need to believe it. It's just a thing of percentages. But I would have trusted myself to open up, I think, a little bit more on the creative side, because I was a workhorse when I was a kid. Everything from mowing lawns to raking leaves to cutting wood and that type of stuff. I think I would have been a little bit more creative in the beginning.
I love that. We have another hand up, McGenna.
Yes.
So much, and I know time is running out. Michael, thank you. Truly a pleasure meeting you. I followed you on Instagram and I posted the link here, and I'm curious to know when you are writing songs, what comes first, the lyrics or the melody?
So it all depends. It happens like when I wrote God Made Dirt, I was singing that in my shower. Had no idea where it came from, just felt like the right thing to say. And I got out, I threw my robe on, I went into my office and I called two co-writers and we literally Skyped and wrote that song in probably an hour and a half over a melody and lyrics that came to me while I was standing in the shower. It was crazy. I've been on my motorcycle and had a melody start kicking in my head, and just one of those things. But it all depends. If I hear something from somebody, there's a funny thing about one of Peyton's songs that I wrote called "He's My Dad." It started with me looking at a sign that I bought from Hobby Lobby on the wall that said, "I'm a little crazy and a whole lot of loud," and that's a lyric in her song. Now Hobby Lobby is probably going to come after me for an in the room check, but
That's a good
you
one.
know, but yeah, that's how it's going. So, and that's my process is kind of open. I don't have any expectations going into a writing room. Whatever hits us at the time, I think, because that's the truest you're going to be is when it just hits you sporadically and like it's, hey, this is happening. So you just let it roll.
Great,
Absolutely.
great
Michael, I have a
question,
quick
Mickey.
question. That's a great
Yes.
question, McGinnis. So, you familiar with do you know David?
I do not.
He's had a most of the songwriters. And he comes out and I play poker with him in DC, and he was always writers because all their money is being taken away. All the AI stuff and all the various things, they're not getting any residual income now. I thought, now you've been around a long time and you've seen what's happened to some of the people that have produced, written songs, and now they're not getting compensated for anything. What do you think about that?
Brett, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's a huge part of the big battle that's going on in Nashville right now. So what the labels did is now they've signed all these artists to these 360 deals, which means instead of just getting money that they would make from record sales, they're getting money from t-shirt sales, tickets, your likeness, your image, everything that you do. And the thing that they really hit hard on was your publishing. Now they want a percentage of your publishing because that's what we call mailbox money. If you write a hit like um, sitting on the dock of the bay, I've seen that check. It's like half a year is $500,000, but that's because it's licensed properly. Now with Spotify and Pandora and all that stuff going on, we make 0.003 of a cent per spend. Instead of when Apple Music first came out and it was 99 cents and you made a dime per every time that somebody bought your song, that has dwindled away to nothing. And the streaming platforms have literally stole all that, and then the label still takes a percentage of that publishing. So making it as a songwriter here in Nashville isn't really a thing anymore unless, and this is where I really get upset. You've got hundreds of songs that are created, and if the label doesn't want them to get heard, they won't get heard. If the major songwriters, I mean, Ashley Gorley, who's an incredible talent, has been, the songwriter of the year for 10 years. Well, why is that? Because nobody else gets heard. They keep that stuff close to the vest. Because they know that if you want to cut on Tim McGraw's album, you have to give up half of your writing credit. If you want a song on, the next big things album, you have to give up 50 or 75% of your writing credit. So they're literally fleecing everybody just so they can stay relevant. And that's the part that upsets me. Jelly Roll did an amazing interview on a podcast, and he said that exact same thing. He goes, "You don't want to sign with the label because the label's going to take everything that you have." And even if they
How
do,
do you get heard if they're blocking being heard? If you sign with them, if you don't sign with them on podcasts, is what you're saying.
exactly. So the key to success these days is tickets and t-shirts. Make yourself available. Get out there, play your shows, and be genuine. Connect with your crowd. Let them buy your t-shirts. That was a big thing when I was on tour with Ted. We don't make a whole lot of money on the tour, but I was killing it with merchandise. And because I wasn't putting stuff on a t-shirt that didn't make sense. I was putting what I believed and the things that I was saying, and it resonated with people, and they were like, I got to have this shirt, you know. Um, I've got a picture of Macy should sell these t-shirt dresses for a living. She showed up. Where was it? Mobile? That the t-shirt. Yeah, you're muted, by the way. So
She
I
looked
don't know.
beautiful in it.
She did. I was like, of course she comes out, and I'm sitting there with my mouth hanging open, like, oh my god. And of course, Ted. You should have seen Ted's face when he saw her. It was amazing. But
Yeah, that was the time I met Ted Nugent. I was in
yeah,
a t-shirt dress.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, lasting impression too. But it's just one of those things where they're literally robbing, and I'm going to just put it out there. They're literally robbing people of their future by doing what they're doing. Now I know the Music Modernization Act went into play where they were supposed to start protecting writers with Spotify and Pandora and all that stuff. Because what's happened is you used to have these editorial playlists and everybody had access to them, and these editors of these editorial playlists would listen to songs and pick good songs and play them. Now the labels are just buying those guys off. So they're paying to have their artists control. And you see, once again, just like on country radio, the same 14 to 16 artists, and that's it. And the only time an artist breaks is when the label wants them to break. You won't hear about a new guy on radio because radio, and they constantly say this, we only play major label artists. Well, what's a major label artist? What's a major label these days? It's the person with all the money. So if you say that Aola isn't alive and well and nobody pays to be on radio, then why is it only the people with that big money are getting played? I mean, that's a catch-22. They literally catch themselves in the biggest, lie that they ever tell. Paola isn't alive and well. Well, then play so-and-so from Tucson, Arizona, or play so-and-so from North Carolina, or play, Oliver Anthony. Huge example of that. They wouldn't play Oliver Anthony till he signed a major label deal. They wouldn't play, Jelly Roll was stuck, in that spot. And it's just like,
Yeah,
come
he
on,
was.
guys, you're telling on yourselves and you're making yourselves look foolish.
And the problem is we as the consumer are missing out on phenomenal talent. Jelly Roll's a prime example.
Yeah.
Michael, is there any regulation to this, or should there be?
There should be a lot more than there is, and that's the thing. I think in Nashville, like I said before, you have a bunch of these guys that are saying they're producers and they're preying on people all the time, where they're promising them things they can't deliver. Being a female artist in Nashville, I wouldn't wish that on anybody because it's. I've had a few female artists reach out to me and they say, "Well, this producer did this or that," and it just makes me sick. It makes me want to just go throat punch somebody, but when it comes down to it, there needs to be more regulation. There needs to be somebody that looks out and says, to say that the two majors in Nashville aren't a monopoly of this business is ridiculous, because they literally control. This is something that happened a couple of years ago. Somebody did a check, and between the two major conglomerates in Nashville, they literally split the number one money straight down the middle. So, yeah, so you can't tell me that they're not talking to each other. You can't tell me that they're not arranging it to be that way, because a song makes so much money when it's number one every week. It generates so much money, and it's X amount of dollars to X amount of dollars. So if you have that number one spot, that's what you want to keep. So you negotiate with the other label. Well, we're going to release this if you release this, and you can't tell me that they're not doing that, because the numbers are just too perfect. And when something's too good to be true, it usually is. But they're going to keep doing it because nobody's checking them. They're going to keep doing it because the machine is bigger than the honest people and ethical people and the morale. The people that have morals, they lose those morals once they step through, and it's sad. It really is. That's the downside of this business. We write a bunch of happy songs, but man, we get our teeth kicked in more than anybody else. But
Well, it sounds like you've had a lot of hurdles to overcome, and it's pretty exciting that you have become the top talent that you are, and helping others as well to become top talent in
yeah.
Nashville. Where can people find you now, Michael? I know you've got your Instagram here. You can click Michael's profile and it will take you to his Instagram account. But is there any other place that you would like for people to go? Is there a website or
Yeah, you can go to michaelaustinlive.com. We're rebuilding that. I got hacked. It's amazing how when I speak out, I get hacked. So I've rebuilt the website, or slowly rebuilding the website. I wanted everybody can find the music on Spotify, and I hate saying that because they're making a whole lot of money, and even my co-writers, because when I release a song, I want my co-writers to get paid. If it's a successful thing. And it's
where's the
so.
best place for us to listen? I mean, I'm guilty, but right before the show today, I was playing it on Spotify. But
So
where would be the best
Yeah,
place?
should we not be doing that, Michael? I'm sorry.
what I would really love is, and this is the other problem that you've come into, is that there used to be a lot of live music venues, right?
Mhm.
And I'll use this analogy. When you have a World Series team, they have a AAA, a AA, a single A ball club, right? And they draft people. And I would equate music to that. You have your top, your superstars. And then you have a next level, next level, next level. And the sad thing about it is these clubs and these venues have literally decided that they're going to pay way below average earnings, and they're going to make it hard for anybody to do a show. And I would love to see clubs pay musicians what they're worth, and for people to go out and see live music, because live music is how you get stuff to the radio. Unless you want to continue being drones and sheeple and listening to what they tell you to listen to, everything that goes on the radio, it's all the same song, just with different words. So live music is the best way to get to know an artist. Take your friends out to a live show, and some live music isn't going to be great, and you see that. And that's the other thing too, is there's a lot of artists out there that the major labels put out that can't sing. Shocking, I know, but there's this little thing called Pro Tools, and Pro Tools comes with something um, that can change somebody's voice. I know, shocking, deception. Woo.
Wait a second. Do you mean I still have a shot at this?
There- there's
Maybe
this
I was
wonderful
singing karaoke.
Yeah, there's this wonderful thing called auto tune, and these artists use this and these labels use this auto tune because they got a cute artist, and they go, oh, they'll sell because they're cute. Well, if you can't sing live, what's the point? Be an actor, because that's what you're doing. You're acting like you could sing.
Be an actor.
And there's been plenty of examples over the past couple of years where people get caught. Like, unfortunately, I'm gonna throw it out there, and Bailey Zimmerman, couple of times, man. And he's like, oh, I was this or I was that. No, bro, it's you can't sing.
He milli vanillied it.
Yeah, totally. And that's what they're giving you, and they're force feeding it down everybody's throat because they're making the money. It all comes down to that. If you had, I tell people all the time, you want to break an artist, it's going to take you 1.5 million. Now you get it back, but it takes 1.5 million to break an artist. That's just what it is. And that's because of what the majors have done to put up the roadblocks for you to get there. So that's just what it is.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for your time today.
No, man, my pleasure.
Going over with us. I really appreciate you coming on as a friend. The girls are so excited. I think you gave a lot to the audience today for sure. We're all going to be kind of watching your success. Definitely going to hold you to coming back on when you're allowed to talk about some stuff.
Oh yeah.
100%. I was just going to say absolutely. And Macy, thank you again. Listen, and you guys, give a round of applause to Macy. We just love having you as a co-host today. Thank you for bringing Michael up. Michael, I am not exaggerating when I tell you, don't tell everybody else that's been here, because we've had some phenomenal folks on the Rainmakers podcast. But to date, you are quite frankly my favorite guest so far. This has been such a fun show. Your energy is out of this world. It's outstanding. I can feel what a great person you are through the phone. And just thank you for spending this valuable quality time with us today. Listen, my name is Daphne Christine. This is Macy Nielsen. We are here with Michael Austin. We've got the links up top. I'm going to let Wendy Butler, our host, take us out of here with making sure that everybody can find Michael, find Ember, and find next time to find us. Thanks, Wendy.
Yes, and again, thank you so much, Michael. We appreciate you coming on today, and we are. I would love to do a road trip to Nashville to come up to see you in your new studio and
Yeah.
everything. That's such exciting news, and I do want to say a big thank you to our sponsor, Ollie Bigler over at Smarter Aircraft, smarteraircraft.com. The next generation in private aviation. Always appreciate those guys over there. You have to check out their website. And
I checked it out. I'm a fan.
Me too.
yeah, their private aviation, man, it's good stuff. So, and they specialize in fractional ownership as well as whole ownership, and they set you up with the charters and all that kind of good stuff. So, thanks.
So
to our
now we have a way to
sponsors.
get to Nashville.
That's
There
what
you
I was
go.
just
Yeah,
thinking.
we'll have a way to get to Nashville.
Like 30 minutes from Charlotte.
I would like to, hey, Roddy, keep your eyes open. I'm going to do a little screenshot. Well, all right. Well, thank you guys for coming today. All the audience appreciate your
You love you guys.
patience with our technical difficulties in the beginning. And Michael, thanks for coming on and spending the time with us. We do appreciate it. And good
Thank you
luck
so
with
much, ladies. Yeah.
all of
Anything
your-
y'all need, I'll be here.
Thank you. You guys
is-
have a good day. We're gonna